we got a big, big, big headline to start today's checkup. We were watching F1 yesterday, early screening for the Drive-In podcast. And while we were watching, I got an update on my Apple Watch. I brightened down, the watch and made sure it wasn't shining too bright, wasn't obstructing any viewers, wasn't making any noises, but I checked my watch and I see this X notification. Denis Villeneuve is set to direct the next James Bond film. Ricky, when I saw it, I flashed my Apple Watch to you. You shrugged me away the first time. And then I said, no, you have to see this. Your boy is directing James Bond. Denis Villeneuve said, quote, some of my earliest movie-going memories are connected to 007. I grew up watching James Bond films with my father ever since Dr. No with Sean Connery. I'm a diehard Bond fan. To me, he's sacred territory. I intend to honor the tradition and open the path for many new missions to come. This is a massive responsibility, but also incredibly exciting for me and a huge honor. End quote. Ricky Flex, there was a slew of directors that were up for James Bond from a report last week. Do you think that Amazon made the correct decision with Denis V?
Wow. Talk about going and getting the best available. And that's exactly what they did. Christopher Nolan wasn't. So who do they go to? They go to Denis V. And that shortlist came out, which was interesting. And we didn't even get a chance to talk about it because the shortlist came out within the last time we did the checkup. And then this news broke that Denis V is confirmed to be doing the next Bond. Bond 26 films, I think.
26.
So Edgar Wright was in the running. Don't love the fit there just because the comedic action, Cornetto trilogy, Baby Driver. I don't love the fit there, even though he is British. Jonathan Nolan, I think would have been good, but the overshadow with Chris, just too much. Westworld Fallout. I do like Jonathan Nolan, not just as a writer, but as a director. But again, can't do it because of Chris. Paul King would have been weird. Paddington, Wonka. That would have been weird. Didn't like the fit there. And then the other guy on this short list besides Denis V was Ed Berger, who I was all in on. I think he would have been great. And he's also British. So that would have been interesting, right? But they go with the non-Brit on this list. And Denis V is clearly the best director out of the short list, right? And he will not be the first Brit to have directed a James Bond. The last James Bond, No Time to Die, was Cary Fukunaga. So it's like it has been done before. Quantum of Solace, Mark Foster, not British. He was German. So like French Canadian, Denis V. It's fine that he's doing this. It's shocking that they had the choice of all these great British directors and they decided to pick Denis V and they went with the best available instead of the best fit, right? Cultural fit, which a lot of teams like the NBA last night might not have done. But that tells me Bond is just going for a good movie, right? They're going for a good movie. I think what's shocking is that Denis V is doing another freaking blockbuster franchise. Insane to me. He's going to be doing Dune Messiah, right? He's done Blade Runner 2049, and he's going to be doing this. That seems kind of crazy to me. So all in all, like I do love it. I absolutely love it. And clearly, like you said in that quote, any director, right, any acclaimed director, right, and does blockbuster films like Denis V, they love 007. They've dreamt of doing 007. So it's not shocking that I hear that quote. I'm just shocked that he's doing it. He has 4 other projects lined up. He has Dune Messiah. He has the space movie Rendezvous with Rama. He has the nuclear war movie coming up.
Cleopatra.
He has Cleopatra coming up. He already has this stuff, and it's already like on the docket, ready to go, locked and loaded. And now he's doing 007. This is, besides Dune Messiah, his priority. It has to be.
I would say it's definitely his priority after Dune Messiah because I think Amazon wants to get Bond up and running. And they were waiting for a director. Now we're waiting for a story. And then we're going to get the James Bond here. You talked about how Denis V is French Canadian. They picked a freaking Hab to be directing James Bond. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I feel like, books are universal. Ian Fleming's universal, even though like it's obviously British centric. I think it just matters that Bond is British. I don't think the director necessarily has to be. When I saw this crop of directors, I was looking at him. I'm like, one of them doesn't belong, and it was Denny V. It's just like this guy is like S tier, and the rest are like A tier. And I was thinking when I saw that list, there's no way that Denny V is gonna like if he is truly contending for this movie, there's no way he's not gonna get it as if he says yes. As long as Amazon wants him and he's willing to do it, it's gonna go to Denny V just because he's on a different level of like filmmaker, I think, and especially action filmmaker and visionary compared to the rest of the directors we've had in like blockbuster movie making. Denny V is second to probably only Christopher Nolan at this time. So I think that in a wish list wise, Amazon is probably ecstatic. They are drinking champagne, guzzling champagne, like celebrating that Denny V is making a James Bond movie. For Denny V, I'm kind of confused because he has all those projects he listed. He's working hard on Dune Messiah right now to finish out his Dune trilogy. I always like connect Denny V with Nolan. Like it's just blockbuster and then like visionaries, amazing like looks of their movies, cool filmmakers can get people to go to the theater based off their name. Like they're almost movie stars by the way they're a director. So I'm surprised that he jumps from one franchise to another. And you look at Nolan did his Batman trilogies. He put his take on Batman, just like Denny V had his Dune. So I'm like, I would love to see him do some of these other projects that are listed here, like the Rendezvous with Rama or this nuclear war movie. That seems more like, that's the next big project standalone. I am confused. I'm just confused because I think that if I had to guess, he only does one movie with Bond. And
I would say the same thing.
I don't think he's going to make three because he just made three in a franchise. This guy's in his prime right now. He just witnessed basically his, older brother, Christopher Nolan, win an Oscar for Oppenheimer. Denny V is not like a young buck. Like he's in the prime of his career. I think he's destined to win an Oscar someday. But that's, I guess, why I find it so, I guess, shocking. But I guess James Bond, like he's saying.
I'm not counting out Denny V Oscar nomination for this movie. I think Skyfall has changed the game with
It's got a
Bond.
history at the Oscars, this franchise.
A history at the Oscars. I think Skyfall changed the game where I think the Academy would look back and say, we messed up with Sam Mendes. We messed up with Javier Bardem. We should have honored them with at least a nomination that year in a weaker Oscar year. I think Denny V, obviously depending on the year, will have a chance here. And they will respect Bond. They'll respect this movie more so than they respected Skyfall at the time. So you are right. This is odd Oscar move, or like if he was going for that. But clearly, after Dune 2's disrespect at the Oscars, maybe he just doesn't care that much, right? Christopher Nolan clearly has cared about an Oscar, outwardly has cared, outspokenly said how much he loves the Oscars, basically saying, give me an Oscar. I really, really want one. And he got one, right?
Denny got
But
snubbed hard this year.
Denny is the opposite, where he's just all about like, oh, when I was a kid, I loved James Bond. There was the picture going around this week of Denny V in his room doing something with a film, but then the Dune soundtrack was on his bed, right? Like he's all about the fanfare, which all these directors are, but he's not like outwardly speaking about like Timothy Chalamet saying, I want to be one of the greats. Denny V's like, I love film. I love film. And he's just so humble. And he says Christopher Nolan's the best. And I look up to Christopher Nolan. He's just not like Christopher Nolan in that regard. That's why like he might look at this and be like, this might be my one chance to do 007 while I might be able to get some time here post Dune. I could squeeze it in. And I always had a take here that I'm interested in doing. So I'm into like obviously everyone should be interested in this. This could be an all-time film, not just 007, but an all-time film. But I just think, yes, it is weird to do it right now. But at the same time, it's like he is different than most directors in his echelon.
Yeah, I'm looking at his quote again, where he said he wants to open the path for many new missions to come. That tells me he wants to get Amazon off on the right foot with James Bond, but doesn't necessarily mean he'll be there for the long haul. It could be like Sicario and Sicario 2.
Good
Denny V
point.
did not direct Sicario 2, right? But, he can help steer the project in the right direction. I don't think this means that when I say that, I don't think it's going to be a one-off Bond. I'm thinking they want a Bond for like year after year, for movie after movie. I think it'd be interesting to see what age they go with the Bond. We'll talk about that in a sec, but I think that Denny V is certainly up for it, and I
Yeah,
think
and I would say, just look at Daniel Craig's first 3 movies, 3 different directors. It's not like Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale combo in The Dark Knight. It's not like that. Bond is different. You could have different directors for each one. It's not like it's gonna be a fluid trilogy.
right. I think honestly, his Bond will probably be similar to like Sam Mendes and Daniel Craig, if I had to guess. A more physical Bond. I don't expect someone to jibber jabber like if it was Edgar Wright directing. I think Denny V, he has notably said that he prefers less dialogue in his movies. So I'm expecting like action packed, cool looking movie. And I think we're going to see the most sex from a Denny V movie. Like, we don't get any sex in Denny V movies, and that's why people might like hesitate at Denny V doing it, because this character does have sex appeal, and even though Denny V's movies look cool, do they have sex appeal? I'd say no, honestly. So I think that's interesting. That's also, people draw the comparisons between Denny V and Nolan. That's like a prime, I guess, nitpick from both of them.
Mm. And I'll say this too, something that no one's talking about, and it's obviously not the focus, but just spin this on Amazon for a second. Confirms their commitment to the theatrical release, right? And they're kind of doubling down on Bond. How Bond is important. We're focusing on theatrical, not any spin-offs, Money Penny spin-offs, or whatever, M spin-offs. Like, they are focused on the movie centric of Bond and the theatrical releases. And that is something where everyone's been in a tidbit since they got the full Bond catalog. They have full control, full right. But look at their first move that they did post that. They hired Denis Villeneuve, right? That
Movie
is a
theaters.
hell of a first move to kind of show your worth, show like we mean business and we want to bring this back to the top.
They were celebrating for sure. Like, that was like almost someone that was like at the top of a wish list that you don't anticipate you're going to get. And then you are absolutely, gushing over this guy, and that how you were able to land him. Now I want to talk about who would be a good pairing as James Bond with Denis Villeneuve. And I was looking at the catalog of Denis Villeneuve movies, and I'm like, wow, there's not really a lot of frequent collaborators at all. I guess you could say Jake G, but Jake G, American, would never play James Bond. Honestly, the only thing I saw that I think would be cool is that as a villain, and I can't take credit for this, I saw this online, Benicio del Toro as a James Bond villain, pretty good. A little bit in the vein of Bardem and Skyfall. I feel like Del Toro could do something. You see how good he was in Sicario, that end scene of Sicario. Someone posted that scene and said Del Toro as a villain in a Bond movie. I think he definitely has the gravitas and, the ability, and he's earned the right to be a Bond villain. I think that'd be cool just to have some type of, carryover. Who do you think Bond wise could be with Denny V?
Well, just to piggyback on the Del Toro, I didn't even think of that. That is awesome. That is a great thought. Like, this is a guy where late 90s, early 2000s did a hell of a run, then kind of went cold for a bit. Then 2010s picked back up with Sicario, right? And now look at him this year, Wes Anderson, Venetian Scheme, and then he's going to be next to Leo, right? A Paul Thomas Anderson movie, right? That is a great idea. He is building back that momentum as that older generation star, great actor. I think that would be a great call.
Has he won an Oscar? Did he win for Traffic?
Traffic. Catherine. Oh, I want to say yes. I want to say yes.
Okay.
But you're right. Not a lot of frequent collaborators with Denny V, and let alone British collaborators. Because I think you are right with the director. Less important for the director to be British, but it has to like no like what's the term? Like, he has to be British. What's the term? Like, you can't, like, that can't be something like that you could kind of get away from.
What do you mean?
Like, what's the term where like someone says This has to be this. This term is unnegotiable. Yeah,
Non-negotiable or
a
it's strict,
non-negotiable. A non-negotiable Bond has to be British, right?
especially if the director is French or French Canadian.
Right. The Brits, the media, it would just blow up in their faces, right? And Amazon again, good first move, but this is the most important move right here, is because you can't mess this one up and just pick a non-Brit. So not only does Denny B not have a lot of frequent collaborators, acting wise, male actors, but also Brits, right? Just look at the Brits that have been in his movies. Daniel Kaluuya, been linked before, right? I'm thinking Sicario. But
I
that's
had to think for a
probably
sec. I forgot he was in Sicario. He's such a
right.
minor role.
Not as much in it. I don't love him as Bond personally, and also he's getting a little older, right? He's still young, still older. Um, but let me give you a name.
Emily
Uh,
Blunt, female blonde.
that would be something that Amazon, like again, you want to try to avoid that. You build up to that. You build up to
Work with
that.
Denny V, Sicario.
I'm gonna throw out a name, and this guy's been linked all the time, and you're gonna say can't do it. He's busy, and he's already has his blockbuster. But you know what? He's about to start a collaboration with Denny V, and it's Robert Pattinson.
He's about to start a collaboration with Denny V. You think he is going to be?
Doom Messiah.
Oh, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
So you just
So
go from Doom Messiah, Batman Part 2, and then Bond.
hard to say no. And I think he's going to fall in love with Pattinson. This is an older-ish Bond. I thought they'd go even younger, to be honest. Pattinson, what, mid-30s at this point, like 36-ish?
Yes.
Okay. He's Batman. So it's like those are two super iconic roles. And he's done a kick-ass job with Batman. Can't wait for the Batman Part 2. Does he grow impatient and just say, I can play James Bond right now. Let's go play James Bond. He's a guy that is more looking for the director in the project. He is someone that is working nonstop. That's taxing, though. I think he's a little too slender of a build. I think you need a different name. And I don't know if Pattinson, if Denny V is only directing one movie, let's say, would that keep him around to play Bond year after year? That
That's a good
that that
point.
would be tough for me to envision him for like a decade as the character.
That's I didn't think that through. That is a good point. If it's just a one and done for Denny, and he's definitely a director-driven actor now, as being like arguably the best working actor, consistently working actor in the game, that's a problem. Didn't think of that. So okay, maybe that was I knew that was ambitious, but now that looks even worse. But that's not a crazy thought because think about like as in I think the Batman thing is just taking so long for the Batman. You clearly like Robert Pattinson has 2 movies coming out this year that aren't the Batman. 3 movies if you include Mickey 17.
Mickey 17.
So like he clearly has time in between the Batman. And I think now like I don't know. I think the iconic thing I get, but he is a Brit and you have the opportunity. It's like, oh, it's something really Denny B. What he was saying about James Bond. Imagine a British male actor has the chance to play James Bond. It's not Batman. Like that's probably a close connection. Hard to say
That's
no. The problem is the time frame, like you said. That is tough. I
It's a
have no
lot of
spin zone on that.
domination. It's a lot of domination by one guy, and people are super critical of that now, where everyone only casts, Pattinson or everyone only casts Chalamet. I feel like you're gonna have younger. You can't. So like, if I say that, I can't go around and be like Tom Holland's gonna be the next, James Bond. I would not be totally shocked. They just got Denny V to direct it. If they just had another massive name and talk about like the theatrical experience, like this guy's Spider-Man, but just like Pattinson's Batman, it's hard to separate like iconic characters. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson would still be good. And I think he could pull off the physical Bond. I think that's what you're going to be getting with the Denny V movie. I think he's got a presence. He showed that exactly from his limited screen time, but also kick-ass screen time in 28 years later. I thought he's great in those action scenes. I think that he could easily still take this on. I think whatever director came forward, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson could have done it. Like, I think he still should be like the number one target here. He's still like early 30s. I think he's not weighed down. He's weighed like 28 years later. I guess that's going to be a trilogy, but he's not weighed down by another franchise. I think that he could, be Bond. And he is not I guess, an A-lister, but he's someone that, obviously I think he would do enough for the brand, and the brand obviously would do a lot for him. So I'm still putting him at number 1.
Aaron Taylor Johnson doesn't have to be an A-lister because Bond is the A-lister. He's the
Right,
reason
like
you're
Daniel Craig, like when he first got the role.
exactly. Bond is the reason you're going to the theater, not Aaron Taylor Johnson. And then hopefully after Bond, Aaron Taylor Johnson's hoping he becomes an A-lister, and then everything he's in, you're going to see him. Similar to Daniel Craig now, right? And that's fine. That's worked for Bond and all these other comic book and iconic characters ever. So that's cool. I like that. And I think the good thing about Aaron Taylor Johnson is if this is a one and done for Denny B, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is so adaptable with different directors and different styles that it would work for him to be a long-term Bond with different directors. And again, like we said off the earlier with Daniel Craig, 3 different directors for the first 3 Bonds, and obviously Kara Fukanja, whatever, and No Time to Die.
Fukunaga?
Thank you. So he's working with 4 different directors for Bond. All I'm saying is, I think he's clearly very adaptable. He's doing Knives Out, and that's more comedic now, for God's sakes. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson's the same way. So I think that's a good pick. Can I just throw one other guy out there?
I got 2 more names to be thrown at you. The odds-on favorite to become Bond is right now, as of today, Aaron Pierre.
I think he signed up for Jon Stewart. I think he's. I don't know. I think he's out.
This is where I like it if there's some diversity and less crossover. I don't feel like I'm seeing the same character through some of my favorite franchises. I would prefer them to keep it separate. And Aaron Pierre is kind of a little Daniel Craig, young, strapping buck,
Bigger.
bigger, definitely. If you watch him like doing press and stuff, like he is so polite and amazing posture. He just kind of looks like regal, knows how to take care of himself. And he's got the dashing eyes. Like he could be James Bond. But he's also it's good. He had Rebel Ridge. He's Jon Stewart in a TV show, but Jon Stewart's going to expand. I feel like if Lanterns is good, Jon Stewart could be like an underrated core part of the DCU.
Yes.
And it's not because you already have an older Hal Jordan, Kyle Chandler that's away, that's going to be done, maybe potentially die in Lanterns, or he's just older. You can't center around that character or can't grow too much with him, I would assume, especially because he's been a hero for so long. And then you haven't gotten Batman off the ground. You haven't gotten Wonder Woman. You're going to have Superman, and then Green Lantern's going to debut. You might have to have him kind of hold it down a little bit in the DCU, which makes him a hard sell for James Bond. Who's the other
Completely
guy?
agree. That's like where the difference between Pattinson and Batman is. Like Batman's taken 5 years to make a movie. Like Jon Stewart, it's gonna be pretty quick. Like he's gonna be Jon Stewart, and then he's gonna be part of Justice League, and he's gonna be in all these other projects. And he is going. We don't even have a Batman or a Wonder Woman in
You
the
need him.
DCU.
You got to hold him
This
down.
is that's where I agree, and I think you did a great job explaining it. I'm not even going to try to add any more. I think just keep it simple. You explained it really well there. Who's the other person you have on your list?
This is a personal one.
Oh,
This is a
boy.
personal one. This is a guy who's been building himself up. He was a teen heartthrob, part of a very mediocre series of movies, the Divergent series. He's a guy who has been in Prestige TV. He has done The White Lotus, is scene stealer in The White Lotus, smug, cocky character. He's done The Gentleman. We can talk about dressing up like Bond, regalness, going up against big, tough dudes. He's in The Gentleman, and he's someone that worked with a great, promising young director with Oz Perkins in The Monkey this year. A guy who's been building up to like a big role, like a franchise type of role. And I think it's Theo James. I think Theo James would be a great Bond. And I think, it just kind of feels like it's time for him. So I would not be shocked if he was Bond.
Yeah, I would not be shocked either. I think the problem is, I think Aaron Pierre, like you were saying with Denny B, not big on the dialogue, right? More presence, visuals. I think Aaron Pierre kind of fits that really well. Theo James does not, I think.
He's a little smug, snarky guy.
Yes, and I think that matches for a Bond, but not for a Denny V Bond. If I had to, like, guess what that would be right now. But I'm glad that we're thinking the same way where we're thinking this is gonna still be a younger Bond. We're not thinking, oh, like Tom Hardy or oh, Idris Elba, um, whoever, Henry Cavill. No, this is gonna be a guy in their 30s, um, or higher 30s that looks a little younger. Like that's what we're thinking. I like where our heads are at. Here's a name where I think he already has something lined up that's big, but I think would be a good Bond. And also kind of like the Theo James, where I don't think it'd be a good Denny V Bond, but would be a good Bond. And that's who we just saw this past weekend in F1 in Damson Idris. I think he would be a good Bond.
Well, the rumors are
Yeah,
loud that he is the next Black Panther.
right. That's why I said he might already have something lined up, and I think he'd be a good Black Panther, even though that's a less talky role. But I think of what we saw
He's
this
a little
weekend.
small to play Bond, right? He seems a little like a little like how tall is that? He doesn't seem like a big guy. Like
Black Panther is not a small dude either.
maybe it's the way he was shot in F1, but
Damson
he didn't
Idris.
seem like a big guy.
He's 6'1".
Did you think he was 6'1" when you watched him in F1?
Well, let's see how tall Brad Pitt is.
I liked him in F1. We're gonna get to that review on Monday, but I think there's a strong chance he is the next Black Panther, especially judging by his answer when he was asked about it this week. Did you see that?
Yes, and Brad Pitt's 5'11". So apparently they're saying Damson Idris is taller than Brad Pitt, even though in the movie it does not seem that way.
I don't know. He just seemed a lot smaller in that movie for some reason. Maybe just a slender build, you know. But Damson Idris, I think when he was asked about playing Black Panther, he said yes, no, and then walked away.
He said something about like I need to be quiet or something.
I think he said yes, and then he said no, he said one or the other. He said yes, no, I gotta go. That was pretty much it.
That sounds about right.
Which tells me the conversations happened.